caused a problem. Because I wasn't on anyone's top 8. And I was like, you bastards. It's like, even the people in my top 8, I didn't make any of their top 8. I was like, how did that work?
Welcome to Behind the Sins, presented by CinemaSins.
Welcome to Behind the Sins, a weekly look at everything going on inside the world of CinemaSins. I'm Aaron Dicer, and this week I'm joined by Baffle Gabber's Jonathan Watkins.
Hello, hello.
And Ian Whittington.
Cause and effect. 100% favorite episode.
We write for CinemaSins and TV Sins and do various other things inside the CinemaSins universe as well. Like, talk about a ton of Star Trek. Be ready for the outtakes.
Oh, stop. That's it. Done.
Ladies and gents.
Out of my system.
But yes, imagine Jonathan and Ian talking Star Trek. And, well, you know what? You don't have to imagine. Listen to the outtakes for this episode because it's all Star Trek.
Definitely a good episode. That's a solid. It's a solid pick.
Oh no!
Just pick up where we left off. That's good. I like John Delancey in that. Did you hear about the time he went to a convention and he said to the fans that he doesn't like Star Trek? What a weird time to say that.
Oh, I've been to 3 actually. I forgot. I saw Majel Roddenberry too. Totally forgot about that.
Oh, that's
one.
awesome. No, I've met her as well. Yes, a couple of years before she passed. Sweet. Met her with Marina Sirtis, which was cool because that's on-screen mother and daughter.
Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron.
No, I'm just waiting. It's valid.
It's going to be a while.
It's valid stuff that we need to talk about. Let's get into the SinSide Scoop.
What's he building in there?
I've got a secret.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
This is a true story.
We're going to take a look at the videos from the week, the process of sending them, and how we felt about the stuff we are sending in general. We kick it off in commercial sins world. You don't know this, but we just watched this live with our live audience since we're recording this a little bit early and they hadn't seen it. This is a Burger King commercial for a kids meal. It's 15 seconds long, and it's basically Spongebob, Sir Mix-a-Lot, I like Big Butts parody. I like Square Butts. And yes, this is one of the most random non sequitur pieces of advertising I have ever experienced. I did write this script, as will become evident by the fact that every single sin is a pun.
And
That's so out of character.
I'm definitely not passing judgment either way on the song, but it is interesting to me that in our society now, which tends to bring up anything that they find problematic, Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back has somehow survived.
Has it?
Through all of this.
Has it?
But I think also, I guess it's looked more as funny than anything.
Right.
Like it's not to be taken that seriously.
Right.
I'm just saying, I'm sure there are people out there that have complained. I'm just saying that's one I haven't personally heard.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's fascinating to me. And it's fascinating to me that song was a hit, kind of, now, all these years later.
Yeah.
That we would have a commercial with it in 2009.
Well,
it seems a little...
Go ahead, Ian.
These things seem weird because even in 2009, SpongeBob is big, but that's not peak SpongeBob. Like, it's been on TV for a while, and then mix it with some Mix-a-Lot.
Was that one of the movies or something was coming out? Maybe I don't know.
That might be.
That makes sense. That sounds.
I bet there was a tie-in.
Yeah.
I bet there was a movie tie-in at the restaurant, and because if I'm remembering correctly, the kids meal is a SpongeBob themed kids meal. Like, so there's must be something going on with that. But the Sir Mix-a-Lot part is really the part I wanted to talk about the most because. I did do that research to because I was like, man, this has been parodied so much. And Slate did an article on it and then a corresponding video with a bunch of the different, I like big books and I cannot lie for a library or, whatever the millions of these parodies that have been done. And it's just like, how many of us have done this parody in our real life too many times? You know
100%.
what I mean? Somebody says
absolutely.
They like something and somebody's like, big butts and you cannot lie. So, yeah.
Or my anaconda don't want none.
This is great for a kid's meal. It's just all great for a kid's meal.
Yeah, that's what makes no sense to me. I don't give a crap about the song. I don't care if you use it in a commercial, but I don't understand it for selling a kids meal. You could put it like in a car commercial or something. I'd be like, that's weird, but okay. But
yeah,
I don't know. Just everything about it is weird. And like the Burger King crown guy is already creepy, and then having him like staring
just double down on the creep
so much at women's butts is it's weird.
It is. What about you guys? Ian, what are some of your thoughts on this whole thing?
Oh, you Americans are weird.
Yeah, you don't have any weird commercials over there.
No, not at all. We've got an opera singer that does car insurance. That's a weird one. Where was I going with this? This video is so good. Like, moving on from the nonsense that is the advert, the commercial itself. Well done, Aaron.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
It's a cubic area.
Cubic area? So yeah, I was rather proud of the cubic area. Yeah, for sure.
That's amazing.
For sure.
So good. Judging women by the levelness of their boxes. Just I hate that terminology for lady parts. For some reason, it's not.
What you're talking
just
about.
A word.
I don't know what
but
you're
it just
talking
goes
about.
through me.
I was just talking about the.
You know what I mean? No,
the boxes. I was just talking about.
Nope. It offends me, but I love it.
Yeah. Jonathan, what about you?
I like the isometrification of women. That was the one that hasn't been mentioned that I thought was hilarious. Also, I looked it up. I don't know what they were tying in 2009. It was not a movie. The two SpongeBob movies were 2004, and then this past year.
Wow.
So weird.
So I don't know what was going on.
Had a SpongeBob thing going on, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was just, it was popular, choice. I'm sure. But
it's wild.
But yeah, no, it was very funny, and I think this might be, like, I don't know. It's hard to say which is the weirdest commercial we've done, but this is one I don't remember if I've seen it, and it's just, like, this was probably playing during, like, cartoons for kids.
Yeah.
And,
it has to have been. Like, why?
Yeah,
why,
absolutely.
Who
like
else is it aimed at if it's not aimed at kids?
I mean, it's got to be hilarious to them, right? Like, I like square butts. Like, I'm sure they're laughing their own square butts off, but, like, it's just so, that song is so objectifying that, like, you almost you can't hide that even when it's for kids. Like,
no.
These square butted women are, they're twerking,
shaking it. They're shaking that nasty butt.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. That's exactly correct.
My anaconda don't want none unless you got buns, huh?
We're aware.
I like that he followed this song up, by the way, and it was like, if I remember correctly, I believe it was a song called Put 'Em on the Glass. Okay. I don't think that one did as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
You think?
Yeah. Rumor has it.
I'm almost positive that is a true story.
Almost, yeah.
Rumor has it Taco Bell is using that in their next ad campaign. So we'll see how that works out. Let's move into TV sins. We are going to kick it off with another episode of Squid Game, the second episode called Hell. Myself and Ian writing on this one, a Dicer Whittington script. Ian, what are some of your memories of this time? What are some of the things you want to talk about from behind the scenes on this one?
Well, the episode itself, the best part of it is also the worst part of it, which is
totally
mentioned
agree.
in the video.
Yeah.
But it absolutely is. It's so necessary. It's better than, as somebody in the comments said, it's better than doing previously or last time in the Marvel Universe.
Yeah.
Works better than that, it's cleverer than that, but it doesn't make a damn bit of sense how they've all been freed and then recaptured. The option to stay or go with a new card, which is the old number that you can't call. The police don't believe me because there's 200 of us, and why would the police believe anything that 200 people say about the same thing? Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But then on the other hand, the foreshadowing is incredible, so clever. The comments even mentioned some that I'd missed, like the his brother, whose name I've forgotten, Gihan's brother. Nope. Anyway, him being in the bathtub, and that's exactly how. Oh, spoilers. But yes, the foreshadowing is great without spoiling anything. Behind the scenes wise, there wasn't a lot, to be honest. It was pretty straight. As complicated as the episode is, it was pretty straightforward to Sin because of that reason. I remember we had a bit of a debate about whether we commit to the Sin 1 conversion or let it die with the first video, but it works. I'm really glad we kept up with it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think we made that decision primarily because we know a season video is coming too, and it would be difficult to, figure out how to stitch that together if we didn't continue with the Sin 1. Plus, it's a fun little gimmick, it's just for, these episodes. And so, yeah.
Imagine that final number.
It's going to be great. We're going to need a bigger pig, as they say in Jaws.
Indeed. It's word for word.
Sorry.
Exactly
I misquoted. The name of that movie is Jowls. They say we're going to need a bigger pig.
Nice.
So yeah, no, I feel exactly the same. Were you done? Did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
No. Okay. That's it. I'll let you guys do the sins and whatnot.
No. I feel exactly the same way about this episode in that it is brilliant to get them off the island and allow them to experience the real world and make a decision to go back. That's brilliant plotting. I love that. The problem is it really does break the universe in several ways if you stop and think about it, which is okay. You can suspend disbelief and, go with it or whatever. But you mentioned most of those, that it breaks the universe as far as human nature. Like what would they really do? Now, of course, the point the show is making is about, how bad it is that they would decide to go back and those kind of things. It breaks the universe in a practical way. Like, how do you even accomplish that? How, so what is also interesting about that is we are playing with a little bit of limited knowledge for the narrator. And so the narrator does ask a couple questions that do get answered later on. Like, we do know in the very next episode how many people decide to come back, but those are still like valid questions somebody watching this show would be confused by,
Exactly. So, which I think sometimes gets missed by the nuance of YouTube comments.
Right. Yeah, totally. Let's see. Did I want to mention anything else? I did want to mention the dialogue. Oh yeah, hurry up now. Oh, that hurts. Hey, stop. Come on, it's my turn now. As dialogue of my sex tape. I did want to mention that. Sex tape. Because it works so well. Jonathan, what about you? What are some of your thoughts?
You guys, I agree with both of you on the episode. You guys have seen the whole thing, right? I've only seen the first 3 episodes, and I'm intrigued to keep going. I haven't had the opportunity to yet, but I really do like it. I mean, I think I'm actually though, just as far as setting it, which I didn't work on this one at all, but as far as the thing I find difficult in setting this is that like I have a hard time like trying to put myself like I try to put myself in the mind of them, like if this was a thing, are there people that would take a chance? And I think the answer is yes.
I think so, yeah.
Because I mean, if you're that, desperation does different things to people,
sure,
and so sometimes like I found when sending it and looking at sins that have been written, it's like, are we just saying because this doesn't exist, this is a sin, or is this actually, I don't know, does that make sense? Or is this like a sin?
No, I get it.
If you try to send the actual characters in the world that they're in. So that's sometimes gets difficult, especially when you're dealing with something that's so, it's both crazy and also a little scary because you wonder if this could actually happen. Like I don't
really wonder that, but that's just because
but like I like The Purge, I think is an excessive extreme. Like I can't imagine that. I mean, there's no way that would ever be sanctioned, but I don't know, the idea that some crazy people would create like a game, I don't know.
We're one billionaire away from either this or Batman, and it's just a coin toss which way that billionaire chooses to go. He's either a vigilante or he does Squid Games. Then who knows?
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyways, the episode was good. I thought it was just as interesting as the first one. I mean, I do like I thought that was pretty ballsy that they took him away from the game for a minute. I definitely never thought that would happen. But then once again, like you said, that opens up some issues. And I do, having watched the 3rd episode, I do kind of prefer them, spoiler alert, back at the game. Because it's kind of like the Hunger Games sequels, like at least after the second one, where you were kind of like, I don't find this as interesting once there's actually not Hunger Games. Like,
right? Yeah.
What a surprise!
So that's kind of what I feel with this. Although I don't know where this is going because I haven't seen the whole season. So, or what season 2 could possibly be, which I think is
they announced
happening.
It this last week. They announced season 2. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're welcome. I get a lot of squeaking. As far as the sins, there's a line in the show, I still need to name my child, sir. And then I love that the sin was just procrastination. I also loved it was a long sin, but I liked the end of it. You never leave the pig nostrils open, where you were just talking about the fact that that bank's just dangling there.
Yeah, well, like the long bit of that sin was me. The funny part was Aaron. Yeah. That's what you're saying there. Because that last bit, Aaron just tagged on the end.
I tend to not reread like a really long sin because I didn't know if that was good podcasting.
Let me say something about this, because I do love tagging sins. Like, it is one of my favorite things when going over a script is like, oh, here's a funny tag we can put on the end of this, that kind of thing. But it doesn't work if the sin doesn't work. And so, like, it really is a team effort. Like, sin. Yeah. The concept of that sin is funny. I just put, a punchline
something funnier on it. Yeah, that's fine.
No, not funnier. I'm saying one doesn't work without the other. So yeah.
Yeah. No, totally agree. Just being a jerk.
I also I love that someone is kind of following my tradition of anytime someone is using the phone, we do a scream outtake. I thought that was
yeah. It's almost necessary at this point.
Well, there's so many to choose from, do you want to die tonight, CC, or whatever you want to do? Totally. What's your favorite scary movie?
Totally. The other thing we could go back and mention is the dub, because it continues to be in the comments, and I think we've explained it fairly well, but I'll try to do it again. It isn't that we couldn't use the original language and put the subtitles in English down there, since we're doing subtitles already. The problem is none of us speak Korean. We don't have anybody close to us who, speaks Korean. And even if we did, the extra level of checking every single, audible Korean language to match the subtitles that we are doing, we're just not sure we'd get it right. And then, we're being ignorant, we're being a little insensitive, because, we're putting words in their mouths that maybe aren't the words they're saying. When we go with the English dub, we understand the words they're saying in English, and we understand how to sin those. Because there's even the part of, are the subtitles exactly what they're saying in Korean? So, so for us, the only thing that makes sense is to be able to, because we are English speaking, is to be able to sin the English speaking version of the show. We know it's terrible. That's why we continue to sin it. But that is the reason the decision was made. I think I explained that, about as well as we can. Hopefully that helps.
The other biggest thing for me is, and someone's pointed this out in the comments, was that some people just listen to the videos. Like, some people do just listen, and a lot of it won't make sense if you're listening to the Korean original.
Sure.
Well, because I know at one point we had, if we don't still have, a blind person who was a big CinemaSins fan.
Yeah.
So that it definitely does happen.
So there you go. That is Squid Game, episode 2. Let's move on to another series we're doing. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? This was a Dicer Hughes script. Myself and Danae writing on this one.
It's a Dicer week.
Yeah, man, this is like back-to-back weeks. Like, I just make it known. Like, I'm the only writer on the team at this point. Like,
I thought it was chilling out, watching Star Trek.
The 1 week, like, we were like, we did the backup episode because I think there was someone was sick, and that was like a week I wrote on literally everything. So I know.
Yeah, we skipped the Jonathan week.
I know it was personal. I know why that got.
It was definitely a personal thing. So anyways, what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? Danae and I writing on this one. I will kick us off then. I had to mention the Harry Whittington joke just to kind of jab at the Whittington name being a real thing.
Oh, we'll get there.
Just to get a little, the British Post, all that kind of fun stuff in there. So I'm sure Ian will have some thoughts on that. The interesting thing of this episode starting exactly like Iron Man starts was something we kind of had to address in a couple ways. One, to say, maybe that's a little bit lazy, but then also say, what did they change? What did they change in that opening? So I went back and kind of looked at it, and it was the MySpace joke. They took out the MySpace joke because it hasn't aged well. Like,
so weird.
Nobody knows
Don't
MySpace
include the scene
anymore.
Then.
I love you mentioned top 8. That was hilarious.
Yes, I will say originally I had top 10. I put top 10, and I was like, wait, was it 10? I don't think it was 10.
It was 8 for some reason.
It was 8 for some reason,
and I don't remember that. I don't know why. I didn't do a whole lot. Like, I kind of got on MySpace at the end, so I wasn't even there for very long. But
what a hideous concept to include in your social media platform, the top 8. I was at high school when that was a thing, and it caused surprise. Social media caused a problem. It caused a problem because I wasn't on anyone's top 8, and I was like, "You bastards!" Like, even the people in my top 8, I didn't make any of their top 8. I was like, "How did that work?"
Yeah, what a weird thing, man. People, in hindsight, what a terrible thing.
Yeah, so weird.
Yeah, definitely. I also did like the why would you re-iron Man? If there aren't any new wrinkles.
Add any,
yeah, I did enjoy doing that one.
I could smell the dicer on that.
Yeah, you can. It smells terrible. The button made me so mad. The button that disactivated and reactivated the droids or whatever. It just made me so mad because it's just one of those things that it's like, okay, we'll just give him a button that does it and not worry about the fact that we've already talked about, having to have, disconnected or, connected through the force field or all that kind of stuff. Let's just give him a button. Nobody will think twice about it.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
We're not going to write anything for this.
And then the final behind the scenes thing I wanted to talk about was the sin that requested Marvel end with something other than a big battle. Every Marvel thing, sure you could find maybe the one or two exceptions, ends with this big battle. And one of the things mentioned was a Bollywood number, and then people were like, "Oh, look, Eternals reference." I'm like, I had not seen Eternals. Whatever, 3 months ago when I wrote this, I promise. But it was kind of interesting. I mean, Eternals doesn't end in a Bollywood number, but there is a Bollywood number in there. But
really,
I just
still haven't seen Eternals. That's interesting.
I just thought it was funny that. Sorry to spoil the Bollywood number for you.
Oh no, that actually makes me more interested to go see it now. Thank you.
Yeah.
But I did think it was hilarious because I picked Bollywood because I thought that would be something hilarious to end the joke on, and then lo and behold, they're like, "No, let's put a Bollywood scene in our."
You just couldn't predict that. You could not predict that.
I'm thinking they were spying on me and then did a quick reshoot for Eternals. I'm thinking that's the more likely thing here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin Feige or whatever his name is, real big fan of ours.
Yeah, he's
so much so that he's hacking scripts.
No idea.
Before we've made the video.
Disparaging.
yeah, he's hacked our script database somehow for sure. Jonathan, what about you? What are some of your thoughts on what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark?
I mean, I don't know if you guys have really talked about I didn't really like the episode. It was just kind of like, it was just another one where it was just like, this just isn't interesting to me. Like the what if scenario doesn't really.
No, you're right. I didn't mention it because I kind of feel like I'm repeating myself with a lot of this stuff, but this definitely falls into that, okay, you're just changing, who a character is. And in this case, it's the clearest case of any of them, in my opinion, of, now that I kind of know where the show went, of, we've got to kind of backwards, create this character for what we're doing later. It feels a little bit forced. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
And I know a lot of people that are fans of Black Panther really like Killmonger. That was one thing I remember when Black Panther came out. They were like, it has a really strong villain. I actually thought he was a little undercooked personally, but I love the actor, Michael B. Jordan, and who I guess is going to make 2 weeks worth of appearances on our show randomly because he was in Space Jam.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And we mentioned him. So this is the Michael B. Jordan show.
Correct.
Now, which would be perfectly fine. Please come on our show. We would love you.
Yeah. That would be fun.
I'd really like to talk about
Michael
Creed
Jordan.
too.
No, I have fantasies about a world where people understand us better and like actors and directors come on and laugh and chat about.
I mean, Chris and I just interviewed somebody this week that listens to Sincast because he mentioned very specific things. Yeah,
and we get some tweets and stuff from people who get it, and I think overall in general we're all probably guilty of hearing the negative voices a little too loudly. But that is probably I mean, we know for a fact based on our stats that is a quite a minority of people who are interacting with our stuff. But yeah, it is one of those things where I do have this thing like we did with Scott from Animal Crackers, where they come in and joke about it with us. Like, that's so fun. I would love behind the scenes to have an element of that where, we talk to those people. Yeah. But Michael B. Jordan, probably
Michael B. Jordan. The seat is always open, Michael B. Jordan.
That's true.
Can you imagine? It'd be so weird. So one of us gets an email from him now, like from his people. Hey, we heard you wanted Michael on.
The nichest thing that we do, and that's the thing that he doesn't watch the videos, but he listens to this podcast.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, he's a fun guy. I loved the as far as the send, I love that you thought you could get away with going to the metric system by saying a cool word like click instead of kilometer, and then not in my America. In the show, the dialogue is your moves or his moves, and the sin is we call that same versus same around here, Tony, and then we sent it. I thought that was great, and I love whenever we bring a good America in. So that's Americist was very funny. America.
Yeah. Yep. Ian, what about you?
Same thoughts about the show. This one just felt like we would like Killmonger in the finale.
Right. Yeah,
Therefore,
exactly.
this episode, that's enough said about that. Full zoom erection on the camera, because it's one of those things where I'm glad I wasn't writing on the video, because I would have been mad that I'd not done that. Because of course, don't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you if you didn't add any wrinkles, why did you re-iron so many levels? That works. Parking sin, because it's spot on. It's just a real world thing that we're sinning. Like, that is, parking in that fashion is such an ignorant thing to do, and I'm sure there are other things in your life that you are doing wrong as well, and this is just one of those things that shows us how much of an arsehole you are. Not you, but actually, no, you are an arsehole for the Whittington shade. So it's like, just completely out of context, I get a message with a screen grab of that, and just, I can't remember what you said, but it was probably just like, haha. Thanks for putting me in a video.
There you go. Listen. Yeah. Getting you some...
Whittington.
Yes.
It does sound like a made-up name.
I thought it was hilarious that there was a Brit in the episode named Whittington.
And it's so specific. Like, you usually don't last name characters.
No.
Like
Harry
like
Whittington
that.
from the British Post.
Harry Whittington.
Oh, you work for the mail service?
Yeah.
Yeah,
if you get because it gets posted to you, and there's a post office, which is where the post goes.
Right.
Mail is the verb, post is the thing, and the verb.
Right. Yes.
Because if you get a last name, they can't kill you, right? Isn't that the whole thing? Like,
I hope
that
you're
works.
Like if you're on Star Trek or something. This always comes back to Star Trek, but
I did do that research on the British Post, by the way. There was
that felt real.
Yeah, that was definitely real. There was one in whatever it says in like the mid '80s. They had like 2 editions or something called the British Post, but there is no. British Post.
I would have loved it if Harry
Ian
Whittington
didn't even know it.
No, I didn't have a clue. No, why would I? I'm not old. I would
exactly.
I would have loved it if Harry Whittington turned up in the final episode as like the 8th member of the team.
That would have been amazing.
Look, people tell me things about the city I've lived in for the last like 20 years, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I mean, it's crazy what people that actually live somewhere have no clue about. You know,
absolutely.
And,
no. How does she?
Why would you? You live there.
Exactly. Why would I need to know silly things like that? The last one was how does she turn the chair around? Because I vividly remembered Danae's rage at this. May have even been on a call while she was writing it, and she was like, "Right, stop! Watch this right now. How is she doing that?"
Yeah, when Danae.
That's a Danae thing. I guess
Physics.
I never noticed that.
Yeah, no, I never thought of it, but now I'm left just thinking like she's some sort of wizard. Like, has Doctor Strange been giving her lessons? Like, because she can't reach the floor, her hands are in her lap, and she's not even like doing any kind of wiggle. You know, it just the chair turns around and she's sitting in it. Like, did she? You know what? She probably had a button. That's probably the thing with the.
Yes,
Aaron. That's interesting though, because it does seem like some of us have our things. Because I know like Aaron's is. Whenever there's an open container by electronics, you know.
It's hilarious because I don't even write those anymore. Everybody else writes those for me.
Yeah, that's true.
That's so good.
I did just write one that you narrated. So
yeah.
Like, and then you write it and you're like, Aaron's going to be so proud of me.
I did a dicer.
I really love putting the anger on those.
I don't know that I'm trying to think if I have anything. I always send if food's left out. That always bothers me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's a thing that bothers me in real life when people like leave the milk out longer than they need to. I'm like, no, that needs to go back now. I will not drink it if it's out another second.
Yeah. All right, we can move on to music video sins. Olivia Rodrigo, Traitor. Hello, Rage from the narrator.
Wow. Really
I'm curious
angry.
if you agree with him. I honestly, Yeah. I figured you did, but and I mean I do too. So that was fascinating to me about this video. Was that?
I mean, it's really the only thing I want to talk about with this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's. I mean, there's some great sins in there as well. Just the fact that he says, "Does that make me a traitor to my previous dog?" That he loved, him after like 30 minutes, and then the line, "I say nay." Like that stuff is just great. But yeah, the relationship stuff in this video really, I could have a 30-minute conversation on this. And in fact, we've had, dozens of minutes on this topic before, but yeah.
It seems like every one of her songs is about this guy. And, which, I mean, that's not uncommon. I mean, obviously, like Taylor Swift, I mean, there's all those, she jokes about that now that she's, don't upset me. I'm going to write a song about you. But the Olivia Rodrigo, I mean, she's so young and it just always seems to be about the same person. And it's just like, I don't know. I don't know. It's interesting.
Super the problem for me. It's more her logic behind the breakup. That's the logic I didn't follow like that. But again, we're probably not the three people to talk about this either.
Well, no, and I mean, you definitely, when you're that age, how do you perceive it?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I mean, no, I think it's totally fine but I think in both, I mean, I think she's totally justified to see it however she wants to or what she wants to write about. And for all I know, she's writing fiction. I mean, I have no idea. I don't know her. But I think Barrett and Aaron's points I think are very valid if we're actually gonna break down the song itself and what the lyrics mean. I don't know. It seems pretty clear what they mean.
Well, I mean, let's get down to it. It comes from the ownership element of relationships, the singular idea of when we are together, if we are, the exclusivity means that everything ceases from your ability to have any kind of relationship with someone else, whether that be a friendship, a flirtship, whatever. And so there's this understanding that culturally we have had for many generations about pairing off, and the idea of, once you do that, that somehow your ability to recognize amazingness in other people changes. And whether that amazingness be physical attraction, whether that amazingness be in just thinking they're a cool person, or whatever. And so much of it comes from like, yeah, you didn't cheat on me, but how can you be such good, how can you be in this relationship 2 weeks after we're done? It's like, well, because, we are capable of loving more than one person. So
there's no set time limit.
Right. Yeah.
And now.
And people do use this logic, and it bugs me every time. I've heard about it with celebrities who get married after their spouses die, and they didn't wait long enough to get remarried, or things like that. I'm like,
that bothers me.
I'm like,
how long is long enough?
Like, who are you? Like, to have that conversation? Like,
to make that clear, that what bothers me is what Aaron's saying, not that they're remarrying. I don't care.
Yeah, no.
Remember Patton Oswalt was
That's who was in my head. That's who was in my head most recently.
I was like, are you kidding me? Leave that dude alone.
But yeah, so just the way we think we understand what this idea of love is, in that it is exclusive in a way that you can't love other people. Every relationship can set its own standards and rules and walls and understanding of those things. But I think as human nature, you have to understand, love is bigger than that, and
absolutely
friendship is bigger than that. And so, yeah.
And the whole one true love thing is great from like a storytelling standpoint. But
right.
The main reason I've always had a problem with that logistically is because then like no one would be in a relationship, because how many people could actually find that person?
Yeah, the odds are astronomical. There's 7 billion people, right. And if there's one that's
why
perfect
would you want to believe in that?
How would you find them?
Like that would be horrifying if that was true.
Yeah,
you would never know if you were making the right decision.
I am, if not specifically, then in a non-specific way, I am the person he's talking about that's the exception to the rule, right?
100%.
Like,
yeah, absolutely.
He may have actually been thinking of me when he wrote that. Like, I don't know. But yes, my wife and I met in middle school. We started dating in high school, and we've been married,
that is
27 years.
That is a beautiful, beautiful story, and I love it for you. But at the same time, if you had never met her, you wouldn't know that.
Right. Totally.
And that's the thing that always, and some people believe that you would. I guess I just don't see, But there's kind of like,
there's a conflict, there's a conflicting or conflagration of these ideas. That's probably the wrong word. I think I'm using the wrong word there, but there's these ideas that go with the idea of long-term relationships and the idea of emotional love, the idea of, friendship. Like there are all these parts of relationships, right? And we tend to put them all together in this box and go, this is what it means to have found your person and be with them forever, right? And I think they're different things. Like I think you have to be able to compartmentalize the ideas of friendship, the ideas of what you like about your spouse versus what you might like about somebody else. How many people leave relationships because they think they find something better and then later realize, it wasn't better. It was just different. That's because we see different positives in different people. Like that's a natural thing for humanity. And so for me, the idea of long-term relationship is beautiful. I'm a lifer kind of guy. Like I love working through problems and issues with people I love. That's not just my wife. That's friends too. That I have lifer friends. And so yeah, I just think it's so weird that our culture tends to go, no, that's all in this box. So if you find something, you like about somebody else, that means you're being disrespectful to the person that you have said, I'm with you. Well, I'm with both of you, just in different ways. Like, it's
so strange how we make that distinction.
It is.
So strange.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyhow, like I said, I could talk about this forever.
Yeah, it's a good topic. I love it.
So what about the song?
Yeah. What about the actual song?
It's a tune. Yeah. I will say, 1 billion sins. This is exactly why we don't leave Barrett alone with the toys. Like, he should not be left unsupervised.
Yeah.
I liked when he compared the song to the uncle with the single joke at Thanksgiving. I thought that was pretty. I thought that was pretty good, and also being concerned about Gen Z because the vintage arcade was empty.
Yeah. I think he asked his uncle if he just have another Moscow mule or something.
Moscow Mule, Uncle Tommy.
I love specific humor. It's so great. Ian, did you have anything else to say about this one?
No, that was it. You covered it beautifully and articulately. It was great, and I enjoyed the Aaron shade.
I don't even know if it was shade. It was just like, yes, I know there are exceptions to the rule. But yeah, totally. Everybody has experienced breakup. By the way, I've experienced breakups. They were just back in high school. Like, it's been a while. But I do know what that feels like, especially when you're young, to be rejected in that way. So yeah,
getting kicked out of someone's top 8.
I can't.
That's right.
I'm really concerned about that with my daughter because obviously that's going to happen to her.
Sure.
And that's going to be awful.
Sure.
Yeah.
I hope I've taught my boys the ability to understand the contextual stuff there, right? Like it's going to feel like it's the end of the world, but it doesn't have to even be the end of the relationship. It's a change in the relationship. Now, if the person doesn't want anything to do with you, that's the end of the relationship. Let them go live their life, do their thing. But it could be that, you can still be friends. Like that stuff is possible, to move from a more romantic idea of a relationship to a friendship idea of a relationship. But and to put the proper weight on those things, right? Like the be all and end all of pairing off is so strong in our culture. And I've been told I have no right to talk about this because of my story, and I totally get that. I'm coming from a very privileged perspective. But the idea of that, that power of, I gotta find my person is, I think that is part of the problem. I think that dial needs to come down, and we need to find peace with ourselves and who we are, and then just enjoy our relationships for what they are. And if one of them turns into a long-term romantic commitment, that's great. That's awesome. That's a lot of fun. It's also a lot of hard work. So, but yeah.
The bit that's really baffling to me is the kind of, if you end a relationship for totally valid reasons and it's a long-term relationship, there's this stigma to it of that was wasted time. I was like, no, you can still have had 7 years that was fulfilling, full of enjoyment, totally valid. That doesn't mean that you are then obligated to spend the next 70 with them if it turns out that you've drifted apart. Like people change rapidly over the course of their lives. Doesn't make it impossible, but just because you've committed 7 years doesn't mean you have to commit another 70.
Right. Yeah.
Difficult thing to get.
Although I love that idea. I love the idea of committing 70 and just making it work. That just juices
no matter
me,
what. Yeah,
no.
So
I mean, beyond abuse in danger, of course. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that idea really juices me of, no, we're going to work through even our changes and how, we're different than we were before. And I don't know, just that kind of stuff gives me life. I love it. Because I think at the end of the day, there's something really deep in value about it, long term. So, but yeah, but everybody's situation is different. And I think that's kind of the point too, is like, we also should be all very careful about looking into somebody else's situation and going, you're doing this wrong or whatever. So totally. Let's move into CinemaSins. Now that we've solved all the world's problems with relationships, all of them.
Let's talk about a super serious movie.
Which one?
Let's talk about Free Guy. Nice. I did not write on this one. This was a Scott Whittington script. Jeremy and Ian writing on this one. So
this feels like, if there's an Aaron movie that's not Pixar, this feels like it.
I did love it.
Yeah, I can see that.
Ian, I don't
know why.
What did you think about this one? This process? Anything you want to take us behind the scenes on?
Yeah, the movie itself, I still don't know if I like it or not. So the first time watching it was sinning it. I know Jeremy really loved it.
That's always a process when your first time is digging deep like that. Yeah.
It is weird, and I don't know if that affects my initial like review of the film, because it's a different environment that even the first time through, when I'm not writing notes or anything, I'm still writing notes in my head. I'm still trying to pull it apart. I think I've come down on I like the movie. There's just some cliches that really, really just bug me.
Sure. Like,
seen the story before, and there's some essentially product placement, the movie, especially when you get to the back end where it's just Disney saying, look at our mighty empire. Look at what we have. It's almost as bad as what Warner Brothers did with Space Jam. I think Space Jam is more egregious with how it does it.
Except it's kind of, they did kind of keep it for its own moment, right? Like they kind of put it all there together, like the IP.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah. So
yeah, I think it's handled better, but it's still stuck out. And
it's the same. It's the same annoyance, right? Yeah.
That's a
I think it's interesting that one of the things that kind of started not making me like the movie less, but one of the things that was being said around this when it was a hit is it kept saying, "See, this is a movie that's not based on any IP and blah blah blah, and it still made money." And it's like, but this movie has so much, it has more IP in it than most movies based on IP. It was like, I don't think that's really true.
Yeah. There's even more if it's not based on this. Than A New Hope. I think that might actually be true.
Yes. Which is fine. Like, I don't care, but it's like that is not.
Right, let's do it. Stop right now. Let's get them both up and let's time it.
I would put my money on there's more lightsaber in A New Hope than Free Guy. 100%.
I really want it to not be true though. So on to Ryan Reynolds. I think that's the reason I like the film.
Of
I
course.
think if anyone else is in this role, it's not. Officer Johnny is. Why is that so funny? What? He's been hit by a car,
great,
but he still does his greeting. I love it. That was really good.
I think everyone's really good in this.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Yeah, I agree. They are great. With the sins, I really liked making Jeremy sing. I always do.
Yeah.
So the Cranberries reference, NPC, and that just works. Like I was gonna do, as soon as she said the line, "It's in your head." In your head was gonna be there. But then for NPC to rhyme with zombie is beautiful.
Yeah, that works
so
really
good.
Really
I love it. Why, when the guy's walking into the bank and it's empty, but he's questioning it, and sometimes you want to write something really complicated and really long and just explaining how stupid something is, and then Jeremy sweeps in and says, "Why do you care? Just take the fucking money, you dumbass." And it's perfect. Great.
Yeah.
That makes the point that we need to make, and it's hilarious.
Yep.
And just I think towards the end of the video, it's just explaining that we're watching a film about a video game that is about watching people in a video game. So it's basically a film again.
Yeah.
Like there's some interweaving that I don't think the movie really addresses. It's just fun to observe.
No, I loved and I loved that sin too, because it's subtle. There's a subtlety to that sin that you almost have to think about. The eat popcorn thing, I think, is the kind of that last piece of the puzzle if you weren't quite getting it.
Just in case you didn't get it.
Just in case you didn't quite get there. But yeah, the idea that basically they've reinvented movies was really smart. I liked that.
But you can see that happening, and then people not realizing that they're being reinvented at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
love this video. Love it. The Sins video I love it.
Oh yeah, no, it's hilarious stuff. I really enjoyed this movie. I had a blast with it. This is one of those things where if people really don't understand that when you talk about things movies do as sins, right? Like cliches and, stretching convenience and all that. All of that stuff is here, and there's a lot of it. That doesn't necessarily make a movie bad. That's actually how you make a movie. The only way you can make a movie is doing a lot of these things, right? You don't have time to spell everything out and make everything creative and interesting in a new way. And this to me is one of those movies that proves that, because it is so sinful. It has all the, the stuff that we would take to task. And at the same time, I just loved watching it. I just had a lot of fun. And Ryan Reynolds is a big part of that equation for sure. On the Ryan Reynolds train since Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place. Like, I love that dude. I've, watched pretty much everything he's done. And this movie, in the same way as Deadpool, is just right up his sense of humor alley. Like, he just completely works. Having said that, he's playing a little bit of a different role here, certainly than Deadpool, but even than other things, where there's a dumbness to the character that he's having to embody that kind of could undercut that smarmy smart Alec. There's a reason the word smart is in smart Alec, because there's an intelligence there that, takes people to task. And he's having to downplay that, but it still works. So yeah, I really did have a good time with the movie. Also the video, the goldfish stuff. The second one today is going to be different, Goldie, and then the sin is just because you're going to feed him. I love that when the narrator just kind of responds in that way. The paying people to work on something that you have no intention of using. This must be how the Google Glass team felt. Thank you. As somebody who had Google Glass, I appreciate that.
I knew it. Yeah, that was with you in mind.
I also wanted to mention that we had somebody tweet that sin out because they are in that part of the movie, and they said it was like,
amazing.
Yeah, and they said it was like, I guess I get to cross this one off the bucket list or whatever. I'm in a CinemaSins video. That
was incredible.
That's always fun. We had a similar experience with the guy from Halloween. So, I always dig that kind of thing. Then I had the song and the movie one that you already mentioned as well. Specifics I wanted to mention. But I thought you guys did a perfect balance. There's a great moment where it's just like the sin removal is just, this movie is hilarious. And that's all you needed to say. It's like, this movie deserves a sin off because it's really funny. And it is really funny.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, I enjoyed it. What about you, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a good movie. Chris and I did a mini pod on this, and I remember Chris, I think, described it really well. He was talking about, if this is a movie that has a ceiling, definitely, like it's that summer blockbuster formula, and it's definitely got a ceiling. But he's like, but this is one of those that actually hits that ceiling. Like, this is one of those that, people say, it's not great, but I enjoyed it for what it was or whatever. Like this, I think this can be that. This is kind of that movie, right? Like it doesn't try to do anything outside of the formula. It's not trying to be like deep and I don't know. But I think for what its goals are, it hits every one of them. And I think that's why it works. But at the same time, also, it's very easy to sin, I'm sure, because there's so much. Like, especially the idea that these characters, these NPC characters, I said that right, didn't I? NPC?
Yeah.
Like these these NPCs would have morning routines. That alone is obviously doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But it's still really fun to watch him get up every morning and talk to his goldfish. And have his magnetic calendar behind him. Yeah, I loved you guys sending that calendar, by the way. That was something I didn't notice before. But yeah, who would have a calendar like that? That makes
that was sense. All Jeremy, and that it broke my brain. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh no, that they exist. They shouldn't.
He inspires me to seek for more backgrounds since he's so good at that. And he's definitely an inspiration in that way.
I also like this movie as like a glory hole blowjob. It's fun and it feels good just as long as you don't think too deeply about what's going on. I thought that was really funny. This script feels like it was written by someone who had to ask their kid what a fortnight is. And I also like the narrator getting irritated that Free Guy got a Jeopardy clue before CinemaSins did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's fun.
Because I would think if Jeopardy had a CinemaSins clue, we would be made aware of it. I would think.
Yeah,
but I don't know.
Somebody would catch it. And
somebody would. Oh, absolutely, someone would let us know. Someone in the chat mentioned that one of their things about this video is that we do the sin about this feels like it was written by somebody who had to ask their kids what a Fortnite video is, and then also in other sins are the person who probably had to ask their kid what a Fortnite video is. And so that play is that tension, which is through a lot of our videos of taking the movie to task for things that we suck at too, is a lot of fun. And we're well aware. We are well aware. So yeah,
I'm getting made fun of in the chat for saying NPC character. I actually caught myself after I said it, and I was thinking like in the side of Aaron's head, like something exploded.
I nearly called you out on it, but I was like,
one of those non-playable NPC characters? Like, no, I wasn't going to mention it, but I'm glad you brought it up.
I love it. I just wanted to make it aware. I did catch it, and I was like thinking, oh no, Aaron's mad at me now.
That's right. That's how I define my friendships. Look, I'm all for long-term friendships unless you improperly use acronyms. Yeah, totally.
Do you have your personal identification PIN number?
Yes, exactly.
ATM machine is what they mention. That's my favorite. I say that too.
Many people do.
Yeah.
It happens. All right, let's move into Rounders. This was an Atkinson Dicer script. Chris and I writing on this one. Poker. Yeah. Let's talk about poker.
Are you a poker player, Ian? I know you're not like into like sports, but I mean, poker's not a sport. It's a card game.
So I know you don't like steak, but what do you feel about milk? Just because I don't like sport, I therefore don't like
competition. There's competition. There's competition.
No. So I've narrowed it down to why I don't like specific sports. So I don't like team sports, which is such a horrible thing to say, but I don't. I like solo sports. So I like the Formula One. I like tennis. I like snooker.
Oh, gotcha. But not doubles. You can't watch tennis doubles.
Doubles
like,
get out of my face.
This is BS.
Go away. It's like, what's this other person doing? Like, you have to communicate with someone? Nah, screw that. That's what I've narrowed it down to. So I love poker. I love poker. I'm not a good poker player, but
well, you're the perfect person to invite to a game then. If you love it but aren't good at it, that's perfect.
That either makes me the best or the worst because I could be hustling all of you. And the fact that I'm telling you that I'm hustling you is just to further
I tend to find that person wins the game all the time too, whenever they're like, I'm just here to play.
Oh, my mum's the worst person to play poker with because all in. Well, she won because, I mean, I'm not going to go all in on that, but she is because she doesn't care and doesn't know the rules. Oh, but yes. What was I saying? Yeah, I like poker. And nice. I have not seen this film.
I'm glad Chris and Aaron wrote on this because at first I was kind of like, oh, that would have been fun. But then I'm like, yeah, but they're going to definitely go more into the details of poker than I would be even.
Yeah, the poker knowledge is intense.
That is, I wanted to talk about that because it is one of those things where usually we're either doing a little bit of research on stuff that we don't exactly know about, or we're just claiming ignorance and letting the narrator be ignorant, which is fine as well. And there are those rare cases where it's like, no, we actually kind of know this world. And both Chris and I really love poker, like are really into it, play a lot, know a lot of the terminology, all that kind of stuff. And so it was trying to find that balance of, okay, how much do we like really go into the weeds on this versus let's make sure we're putting together a tight, fun video. You know what I mean? Like, because at the end of the day, that's the goal is for anybody can watch this video, have fun, laugh, and not need to know what it means, to have implied pot odds on the turn. You know what I mean? Like, so you just
Which ironically is, or not ironically, quite fittingly, is exactly what, I haven't seen the movie, but based on the Sins video, what Rounders the movie actually does really well is plays into enough specifics, but still being able to enjoy it as a layperson.
It is exactly what the movie does, and that is what I wanted to talk about. Is that like it gets the feel of poker perfect. Like it understands the emotions of the game, and it understands how the game works structurally, and it understands more than that. But the movie does fudge some of the details. Like it does, again, to make it a good movie. Like if you hear Brian Koppelman talk, he's got a great podcast. I've heard him on several other people's podcasts. He also, by the way, does the show Billions
cool.
now on Showtime. Which, if you like Rounders and some of the other Koppelman stuff, Billions is that same kind of everybody is an expert on pop culture. Everybody is like, it's just kind of one of there's almost a Sorkin element to it where people are, elevated.
Oh, yeah, it feels very Sorkin.
But anyhow, he is really good at that. Here is the feel of this thing. We're not going to fudge the big things, but we understand what it means to make a movie too. And so you don't necessarily need to know that they're playing a different variation of poker here because, and that it might not work exactly this way. So yeah, anyhow, I don't, just because I'm thinking about this, I'm going to mention it because I think it's a nice little bit of trivia. And I just found it out recently in an interview he was doing about this movie. He actually specifically writes his movies not to include guns. And he got a lot of pushback on Rounders because of the gambling world and just thinking the crime element, that there would be a lot of guns. There's a scene in this movie where they get beat up by a bunch of policemen. Even in that scene, not a single policeman pulls a gun. And it's just his thing. He just,
I really like that. I find it's so prevalent.
Yeah. I find that not only fascinating, I find it admirable. And especially with some of the things we've been discussing with gun safety for very specific tragic reasons recently, that's kind of in a lot of people's minds. And I think that's why it was kind of talked about in the podcast I listened to. But that is another example of his ability to give himself parameters and then just make a fun movie. And I think at the end of the day, that's what Rounders is for me. Yes, I love poker, and it gets so much right about the feeling of poker, but this is just a really well-paced, well-told, fun, interesting story for me. And I really, really dig it. So yeah, other things I feel like I should talk about from behind the scenes is we knew we had to do something with the accent, probably several things with the Malkovich accent. It is what this movie is known for, so we tried to approach that in a fun way. Did a little setup and payoff with, the movie
cool,
inventing an accent. Oh, I guess it actually does invent an accent.
I'm telling you, there was a time where you could not play poker without at least one person saying that splash the pot line.
Yeah. Or pay this man his money or whatever, whatever it might be.
I haven't heard those necessarily as much as I used to, but I heard there was a good period of time where that was every poker game that was said.
What is it with Malkovich and doing accents?
It's
just in general.
Oh, man, it is one of those performances where you literally can't tell if it's terrible or amazing. Which I guess at the end of the day makes it amazing because you just kind of give yourself to it. And you have fun with it. I mean, it is terrible, but the performance is amazing. It's a difficult one, but we knew we had to mention it.
It is interesting. Chris and I just interviewed a director who's British, and he said he was talking about his love for Bram Stoker's Dracula. I don't know if you'll be able to back this up, Ian, but I don't know if you've seen Bram Stoker's Dracula, but like Keanu Reeves gets a lot of crap in that movie.
I haven't actually seen it. No,
he has this weird accent. He has this just what I assume is a bad British accent that an American actor was trying to pull off. But Christopher Smith, the director we talked to, he was talking about how much he loved it because he said, I've got friends that talk like that. He's like, it's a weird accent.
I'll watch it this week and I'll feed back, see what my judgment is.
But I just thought that was crazy because since 1992, I've always thought that's just such a terrible performance. And now knowing how Keanu can act, it's weird, right? But then you hear this British guy say, man, I'm telling you, I've got friends that talk like that. And you're just kind of really? That is so fascinating to me.
There's so many regions of the country.
Just found this, he had a Russian friend or something, and that's just...
It sounded very much like that.
I
have some English friends that I don't believe that's how they talk. You sound like a caricature of an English person. It's just how I talk.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's like we have all these different dialects in America. I mean, people have their southern, person that it always sounds the same, and there are people that sound like that. Well, but most southern people don't. And most southern people sound like me.
And people like me who have been in communication their whole life, my words are very overperformative. I know they are, but they're that way in real life too. It's like maybe I'm a little bit amplified when I'm doing a show or something like that. Yeah. But for the most part, I've just learned.
No, I think you tone it down.
It's probably true. I've just learned to speak that way.
Accent, so have you ever had a northern accent at all?
I've had shades. It is definitely something where if I am in a southern accent place, they will hear a little bit more of the Minnesota Same for me when Michigan,
I go out
west. But
when I go out west, people act like I'm a hick. So and I'm here, and people are like, "You're from here? You don't have it," and it's like, so I don't know how that works. But
yeah,
I'm quite looking forward to being the novelty when I come to visit.
I forget what they call the accent that is not technically an accent in America. It's the one that most newscasts use. Like there's I forget. There's a word. There's a term for that. That's been how I've spoken my whole life. So
yeah, no, you and Janae both.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think Mid-Atlantic is possibly correct. But anyhow, yes, I have had certainly twinges of the places I've lived. I know when I moved back to Michigan from Southern Ohio that I got made fun of by my Michigan friends because they thought I had picked up some Southernisms.
But Michigan's not really northern. Would that be more like kind of like a loose Canadian accent or something? Because you're kind of getting closer. Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of, again, that Minnesota.
Yeah. The Minnesota.
I just think of Fargo, which you can't not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yo, you got Arby's on me.
Oh, and
so polite.
The Yoopers, they're basically Canadian at that point, so yeah, it's all up there. And the other thing I just wanted to mention about this script is butt onions. Okay, moving on to the next.
Well, yes,
the next person. Ian, what about you? What are some of your thoughts?
Yeah. The universe giving kismet of getting to sin sitting the apple, which is a poker turn.
I'm going to talk about that in Keeping Tabs.
Okay, cool. Love it. It's like the world knows that apples are assholes, so it's perfect. Sinning the steak pun took me on a journey because I was like, there's no... this is a step too far. We are sinning puns? This is my job. I don't have anything to bring to the table other than Star Trek knowledge and puns.
How dare we be contradictory to ourselves?
Turn on this. But the journey that it went through of feeling... of sinning it, but then landing on a pun itself was, whew, everything is right with the world. The ante has been lowered. This is another one I felt on a very emotional level was got him by the balls. Depends on the grip. It does not. No, it does not. A hand can hover and you have me by the balls. Like the proximity is enough to, don't hurt me there, please. Yeah, it does. Yeah. Grip is irrelevant.
It does not.
And Billy's. So it just who was it? Was that you or Chris?
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah, of course it was. Because it just one is a strip club and the other is a random piece of information I do not need. And it just hit me. I love it because it's true and I will never know. There is more than likely we will never find out what version of Billy's.
Hey guys, Billy's topless. Yeah.
That was funny.
Great.
This is a
brilliant
weird
script.
Yeah.
You guys got the balance so well. Now I was up against it time wise, so I had to listen. I watched the video at 1.75 speed, not the speed to play some of these sins.
Yeah, that's a little fast.
That's too fast. So some of the explanation, I was like, how is anybody going to keep up with? Right, okay, let's play this at 1 time speed. And
yeah,
but you guys got a really good balance. I loved it.
Jonathan, what about you?
I really like this movie. It's funny. I made the comment, poker's not a sport, but this is definitely a sports movie. Like it follows that. I mean, you're kind of waiting for that Rocky moment, right, where he goes back up against Teddy KGB and wins. I think this movie does a pretty good job of making. Because the thing about poker in movies is that I guess everything in movies is obviously staged, but like you guys mentioned the Casino Royale hand, which is one of the most ridiculous things ever. And, so stuff like that, I mean, obviously these people aren't really playing. So it kind of even though it is cool, if you played poker enough, the chances of him being able to best them that well the next time he plays them is really low. But, whatever. You guys pointed out the stuff that, and I will say too, this movie probably introduced a lot of people around my age. I was 22 when this came out, to Texas Hold'em. My dad was a poker player and it taught me poker, but he had only taught me 7-card stud and 5-card stud and 5-card draw. I'd never played Texas Hold'em. So I remember watching this movie and being like, what is that they're doing, at the beginning? And then, Ferguson wins it a few years later, and then Moneymaker, and then now everybody's playing Texas Hold'em.
Yeah, it was Rounders in 98 was I'd never played poker before then. Never.
Yeah.
Never. And Rounders in 98, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was learning a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then Moneymaker happens in 2003, and then from that point on, I was part of that poker boom, and I have not looked back since, and I just love it.
I feel like this movie is to poker players what like maybe Wall Street was to like younger kids that became like power brokers and stuff.
Maybe.
I mean,
oh no,
working on Wall. I mean, they're both dark. I mean, Rounders is a very dark and dirty movie, but I don't know. It's interesting. Like I just think it's a good movie. I would borderline say it's great. I like it a lot. I think it's one that follows that formula. I think it does a pretty good job. I love the stuff that you guys send though. Stuff that always bothered me in this movie, the Oreo tell is
the
awful.
Worst. It's the worst. It really is the most ridiculous part of the movie. It is the most ridiculous part of the movie.
The fact that he wouldn't pick up on that, like as smart as he is, like the first time he plays him, it makes no sense. And then it also doesn't make sense as a tell. Like he always has the nuts when he eats an Oreo. Like it's
so weird.
That seemed really weird to me, that he didn't realize he had a tell. Like, why wouldn't he deal with that himself?
Too.
Yeah.
That's another part of it. All of it doesn't make sense. And then Chris and I have talked about this several times, but Matt Damon like giving himself crap. I mean, I get after he loses all his money, he's upset, but giving himself crap like, a year later or whatever that he played that hand. Everybody plays that hand unless you're terrible. Like who would not play that hand? He has one hand that can beat you. I mean, it's like
right.
Statistically,
and it's 1-on-1. I mean, the chances of him having that hand is insane.
Yeah. It is a thing you learn to say when you play a lot of poker. Is if you've got me, you've got me. I have to call here. Like you just do. There are just certain times. Like you can't fold. Even when you've got that sinking feeling that they have the one hand that beats you, you have to call. Otherwise, long term, you are a terrible player. So yeah, it's
like and everybody's lost. I mean, I haven't lost 30,000 on a hand, but I mean, so I can understand that upsetting him, but like he would have to know a year like later that, well, I mean, it's one of those things, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I enjoyed all of this. I also enjoyed the centers for folding Famke before the flop.
Before the flop.
That was a nice turn of phrase. I do. Famke Johnson is a really, really cool. She's a pretty memorable in a lot of roles, but she's one of the best Bond villainesses or whatever.
Speaking of relationship stuff, the relationship stuff in this movie is terrible. It's my least favorite part of the movie. It just paints.
And it's
bad.
weird when you watch it now. I don't even get like Gretchen Ann Mall's character very much. Like, I'm not saying she's being unfair to him, but
no, she's written that way. She's just written as a wet blanket. Yeah, it's just it's unfair.
Yeah, I think that's
her.
What it
is.
It's
unfair to the character. It's
Yeah, it's really weird, and she's not. I mean, she's perfectly fine in the role.
Yeah,
but it's just such a weird role, and Famke's role is really weird too. But no, you guys did a great job. This was an interesting one. It's not that I don't know what the type of movie we typically send, but when this got on the schedule, I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
And then you guys obviously were the perfect people to write on it. So
yeah, lots of fun. All right, let's move into keeping tabs.
The internet is a communications tool used the world over where people can come together to bitch about movies and share pornography with one another.
Ha ha! Oh, jeez.
This is the most public yet of my many humiliations.
We're each going to talk about something from putting together content for the week. And since I mentioned it, I'll go ahead and start with the rounders, the lingo. And the reason I want to talk about this is, yes, sitting the apple. I think another one is stacks of high society. Like there's all these terms. What I found out from Koppelman is that, yes, technically people have used these terms, but he specifically, because he wanted the movie to feel more like this alternate universe in some ways, he specifically found a book from the early 1900s of poker terms that are no longer haven't been in use forever, and put them in the mouths of these characters. So like nobody has said sitting the apple at a poker table for 100 years, or stacks of high society or whatever. So that was very intentional. It was an intentional thing that he decided to use these obscure poker phrases as if it was kind of this fun universe. Man,
you'll even make experienced poker players feel bad. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, I don't know that term.
Right, yeah.
Make people really insecure.
Yeah. So I had that I wanted to talk about. Ian, what about you?
We're going to go over to Ian's Forbidden Tabs, which is jokes that I liked but Jeremy doesn't like. No, sometimes we had a huge script for Free Guy, but there's a couple that I just wanted to pull out that I really like.
I thought you were going to say we had a huge row over something, and we're no longer friends. Yeah.
Bizarrely, Jeremy won, and he's acting like it's his channel. I don't know.
What an ass.
So when the movie opens and Guy is talking about the people with sunglasses, look, that's not even his car. That's not his wife. Grand theft adultery.
Ah, yes.
Come on. Yes. Didn't make it. It's fine. Apparently not good enough. And so the coffee barista lady, she says, sorry, we usually don't put the chairs on the tables. One small coffee over 4 hours, girl. I said, well, that was needlessly rude. How would you like to be called? Needlessly rude character that we'll never see again. Please laugh at how rude I am, girl.
Nice.
I liked that. Yeah. So that's just a couple that I had that didn't make it.
Some deleted
extra sins.
Yeah. Jonathan, what about you?
I didn't work on anything
that
we talked about this week.
You know what? I'll bring something else up then.
Feel free.
I told Danae I was going to bring this up, and she's not here to talk about it, but I think we can kind of talk about the situation. But in Killmonger, there's a line I don't think we talked about, but there's a foreplay line, and we have like the narrator gives some very great anger at the fact that they would dismiss foreplay in that way or whatever. And there was a sin that was written. That I wrote that after, like, I think the line in the show is like, we don't need the foreplay or whatever. And my sin was just men, and just sinning men for being men because, it's a common thing. Mm-hmm. And Danae in the script phase was like, I don't like this. I think, it diminishes men or whatever. And I thought it was one of those really interesting things where, you may think that's the other way around, but oftentimes, we find ourselves, defending others as opposed to ourselves, right? So like for Danae as a female, she's like, I think that diminishes men too much. Men can be amazing or whatever. And so finding, that balance, because we'll still do that. We do kids, we do parents, we do, we do those kind of sins. But, and I think the coup de grace in this case was she had a better sin anyway. Like her sin in that moment was better than just the men's sin too. But it definitely was one of those things where we kind of had that discussion. I thought that was interesting enough to bring up. That it was kind of one of those interesting things.
It's a super tricky.
It really
line.
is. Because I mean, I know I've read stuff and been like, I don't know why, but this just feels a little meaner to me than sometimes. And then Aaron will be like, yeah, no, I see what you're saying, and then vice versa. I'll write something and not even see that, and then somebody will say it. I'll be like, oh no, you're right, that is. And I think there's also a stereotype too, or I'm not stereotype, but I think there's there's some kind of thought process that, well, we're men, so if we're making fun of men, it's okay. But you can still cross a line. I mean, there's, and so I
think it's tricky when you're putting words into, in this case, we're putting words into Aaron's mouth, which is fine because Aaron wrote it, but it's something that, you need to be conscious of is, that might be funny, but I'm going to make somebody else say this.
And to be clear, I still think it's a fine sin. I think, we could have put that in there. It would have been funny. It would have been fine or whatever. I just found it interesting that, it's the female on the team that's like, no, I'm not okay with this. This is a little, and I like that. I think that's speaks well of Danae and speaks well of the writing team.
Danae is awesome.
She is.
Once again, Danae being better than all of us.
Well, that's probably true.
That's absolutely true. Let's move on to the comment section.
I want to know what you're thinking.
I appreciate your honesty. You're a real straight shooter.
You are the ones who are the ball lickers.
We're just going to take a look at some comments from the week. Ian, why don't you kick us off? What do you got?
So we're going to... have we named this segment yet? Well, of course we haven't.
Are we talking about nitpicking the nitpickers of the nitpickers?
Yeah, nitpicking the nitpickers.
Oh, you've got one of those. Let's go for it. Let's do it.
I have 4. I'm not going to do all of them.
Okay, well, let's go.
I have so many.
Should we just rename this segment from the comment section to nitpicking the nitpickers of the nitpickers?
Nitpicking the nitpickers.
By Ian.
Because I am getting so... I don't get things wrong, people, but I'm getting so many people that think I'm wrong about things, and I don't get why... people don't understand
All right,
this.
We're going to give it a green or a red. What are we going with? What's the comment?
Okay, so I'm kind of leaning away from naming things. So the comment is, imagine thinking, this is from Free Guy, imagine thinking a porta potty is a Doctor Who Easter egg and giving us in despite no actual TARDIS being anywhere in that shot. You think?
This is an immediate red. This is trolling. We know what's going on here. Yeah.
It's like, I know that's not a TARDIS. You know that's not a TARDIS.
It's in the sin. There's a wink in the sin. Yeah, there's a wink in the sin.
That's the whole joke.
Yeah. No, that's just somebody missing something. That happens. Yeah, that's a red
card.
That's a red.
Sorry. This is quite interesting, actually. So, Happy in the Killmonger video.
Okay.
This is a concept that TV Sins apparently struggles with, so let's clear it up. Happy is called Happy because he's a grouch. His friends were likely poking fun at the fact that this man is never happy and giving him an ironic nickname. I understand how nicknames work. According to Wikipedia, his real name is Harold, blah, blah, blah. Now, I think this is a red because he is not characterized as a grouch in the Iron Man movie. He is actually happy. He's a bit of a...
He's got a little bit of an Eeyore to him, though. He's got a little bit of a downer vibe.
But it's not so integral to his character that you called him happy, ironically.
I understand what you're saying. I might lean a little green on this one, just because I think that makes sense. Like, we do know that nicknames often come from opposites, right? Like,
yeah, of course.
So somebody calling me
what does
short
that mean
stuff.
By this is the thing. This is the thing TV Sins gets wrong all the time. What are they talking about?
I think we've sent Happy's name a couple times.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, then that's me not having a good memory.
So I can see this. I can put this a little bit in the green, but I do understand what you're saying, and it doesn't make it not funny. It also doesn't mean that that's what the sin is really about. The sin is just about having fun with the idea of, I think we call him different dwarf names, of the seven
depending
dwarfs.
on the universe that he's in.
Yeah, that's like
exactly.
That's the fun. And so, but yeah. So I'd go with a slight green on that one.
Okay. Even Aaron gets things wrong. That's weird.
Yeah.
The final one is just a very, very simple. This is from it's from Killmonger again. Same way you move yourself on a swing, and it tags the chair moving. I was like, well,
no, that's a red. No.
That's a massive red. Like there is no momentum. She's not wiggling. There's nothing. That's not how swings work.
Is this fun? Is this segment fun? Do you think people like nitpicking the nitpickers and the nitpickers?
It's fun for me. I need this. Like, I absolutely need to vent this in a public format. But I don't know if it's mean. This is my problem. I don't know if this is mean to the person commenting.
Well, and we're specifically not mentioning their names, and I don't think it's mean. I think it's part of a back and forth conversation, right? Like, and at the end of the day, what's important with a segment like this is that we all continue to recognize none of this matters to anything. Like, none of this matters. Like, if you're having fun, if you're laughing, that's what matters. If we make you think and go, oh, that's interesting, that's what matters. But, none of this actual... In the same way, it doesn't actually matter for the movie what we're doing. It doesn't matter for the Sins videos what you're doing.
I know that he's not going to jump into the porta potty and magically disappear. It's the last line where it says police boxes were a real thing and do actually appear in other places besides Doctor Who. That's not even the point I'm making. I know that. I'm really
in the live chat, we are definitely getting positive feedback about this segment, that it should be its own thing. So we'll continue to do this. I did
wait.
Go ahead.
Do you have police boxes? Like, what is that?
Yeah, no, 100%.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, so the TARDIS is a police box, and they went out of fashion in the 70s, I think. But the original intent of them was that you could perform a citizen's arrest, push the offender into the box, and then close the door and lock it. And then you'd need the police to let them back out again, or you could just call the police from them. But yeah, there's a phone box specifically for police.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know why I didn't.
Here's a couple other nitpicking the nitpickers of the nitpickers. In this one, this was from, I forget which video this was from, but there was an excitement sin that included the word soldering. And I pronounced it soldering.
Killmonger.
That was also Killmonger. And the comment is just soldering is pronounced soldering. Silent L, yo. You get a sin point. Never heard them called sin points, but fair enough. I did some research on this, and I'm going to give this a green because absolutely 100% I should have said soldering. However, Ian, maybe you can speak to this. In England, it's soldering, isn't it?
This is a red for me, absolutely red. It's soldering. There is an L in there for a reason. I don't know why you people keep having to change the way we made these words. It's one. Soldering is the correct way to pronounce it. Lieutenant, come on.
There's no F in there. Come on.
There is. It's silent until you say it.
It's invisible, you mean?
Yes, that one.
Yeah, it's just it. That's not silent letter.
That's an invisible letter.
That's not how that works. Yes, Knight. No, it's soldering. It's just soldering sounds rude to me.
No, I can understand that. Sodomy, there's some
soldering someone.
There, so, but yes, I think it is a green technically because in my culture most people say soldering, and I mispronounced it. Let's see, and then the other one I had was we already talked about the relationship stuff enough. This one's from Oversoul, who's in the live chat right now, and had a list of things about the NPCs and having full life. And so the overall, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the overall thing is, yes, some games with specific examples. In fact, one of the specific examples I'll read, take the xenomorph from Alien Isolation as an example. It doesn't despawn when you don't see it. It's constantly actively looking for you throughout the map of the entire game, almost like another player. And so I think we had made a comment about NPCs don't have full lives. They just show up when, you need them. So I think this is a green. Obviously, there's some great examples of this. Although for many games, it's also, a red. So, yeah.
Yeah, I struggled with this one because there are exceptions that prove the rule, but for the most part, I would probably say exclusively, it is not to this level of detail. The spirit of the sin still stands. This city exists. Would have been the sin because there is so much detail that is unnecessary. It's not needed.
Yeah. Jonathan, did you have any other comments you wanted to bring up?
I did. Mine was also from Free Guy. I just thought it was funny. It was Short Hack said, I was quite disappointed to learn that I didn't get Ryan Reynolds for free. Quite possibly the biggest scam since the never-ending story. I thought that was perfect.
Nice.
That's true. It does say Free Guy. It's false advertising. All right, let's move into Beyond the Sins.
To infinity and beyond.
Somewhere beyond my wild history.
To boldly go where no man has gone before.
We're each going to chat about something else from the world of pop culture that we've seen recently. Ian's going to kick us off this week. What have you been checking out?
I don't know. No, yes, I could. There's another book I could recommend, but I won't. I don't know whether to recommend this, but I keep thinking about it, which means
it's fine.
I think I need to.
This doesn't have to be a recommend. Beyond the Sins does not have to be a recommend.
Okay, that helps. Spencer. So, watched this last week for the other pod that shall not be named. And it's really Englishman and an Irishman go to the movies while we're getting plugs in. It stuck with me. So this won't interest. I don't even know if you can watch this if you don't know the Lady Diana, Princess Diana story. And I think most of the world probably does. But yeah, it follows it's a fably, almost fiction-y adjacent look at a weekend in Diana's life towards the end of her marriage to Prince Charles. And I came out of it thinking this was a terrible movie. This was so bad. This is just hideously one-sided and not good. But talking about it for 45 minutes changed my perspective a bit, and I think I enjoyed it. And there are some moments, especially there's one particular moment at the end of the film which is done so well, and it handles sexuality, and it is done so well and so tastefully. That scene in particular, that stuck with me. So I think I would recommend watching it, and I think I'm going to watch it again, but I need to talk to somebody about it again. It's just one of those films you need to talk about.
Have you seen it, Jonathan? Have you checked out Spencer?
I haven't. I'm a huge fan of Kristen Stewart. I don't know, what are we called?
She's great in it.
K-Stew Crew.
Really good.
Yeah.
K-Stew Crew. Me and Jeremy are in the K-Stew Crew, I think. I don't know why I just called it. I think Jeremy likes her. I have no idea why I said that. But I know I'm a fan of hers, and so I do want to check that out. I typically like I don't know if this is really a standard biopic, but like
it's not.
That doesn't really interest me.
It's
so
not
that's
at all.
kind of my.
It's not a biopic.
And it's unfortunately it's not. It's at a theater near me, but not as near me as the actual theaters in my town. Yeah, like I'd have to drive like 45 minutes. So I'm kind of hoping over the next couple weeks it'll just come here, and I might wait it out. But I do want to see it. So
much for build it and they will come.
No, I know exactly what you're saying, Ian. It has stuck with me. I definitely like it more than I did initially afterwards. I think I have released some of my own what I wanted the movie to be and am more embracing what the movie wanted itself to be. And for that, it's really kind of brilliant. It is a really smart allegory. You said fable. Fable works as well. It is not a biopic in two senses. Number one, it's not a biopic in that it only covers a few days. I wouldn't call that a biopic.
No, I think you're right. Well, and I just learned like the other day, this is a director of
Jackie,
which I loved.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And the other reason is because it is almost completely fictional. I mean, the only things that are really real about it is that there are events like this and that these these humans exist, right? And I guess there is also the reality of the emotions of it, that you imagine that these emotions that they're experiencing. But this doesn't come from some sort of biography book that, has this and because of that, it elevates things in a really interesting way that at first were off-putting to me, and I think you as well, Ian, but I think now are so crucially intentional for what this movie is trying to do and to put us into the headspace of this real human being in the trauma of what she would experience. This is a horror movie in many ways, and there's trauma in this and ghosts and like just all sorts of things you just wouldn't expect if you were expecting a biopic. And that's why I say it's not a biopic. It's a fable.
I think that's hit the nail on the head. Is I went in expecting a documentary, dramatized. But it's not. This is inspired by true events to a T.
It's not quite as distanced from reality as something like The Harder They Fall on Netflix, where it's like, okay, there are actually humans that had these names, but none of this is real. Like, it's a little more real than that. It's a little more, in the real world than that. But it's definitely, it heads that direction. And so making peace with that for Spencer is been part of the reason I've been enjoying it more and more. In fact, there have been several movies over the last couple of weeks that initially upon watching them, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty good. And then I just keep thinking about it. And I'm just like, man, maybe that's more than pretty good. That may be great. So and this is one
I need to give it another watch.
It's in that category
really
as well.
Sat with me.
I will take that opportunity to say this is one of those movies that on the first watch, which was yesterday, so I'm still in the place of, this is okay. We'll see if this one grows on me as well. I don't think it will, but we'll see. This is Passing. I watched Passing on Netflix. This is Tessa Thompson and Ruth Negga, and they are basically dealing with an era where certainly I say an era as if racism is no longer a thing. Of course, it is still a thing, but an era where it was much more blatant and accepted and those kind of things, and where members of the Black community who could pass as white sometimes chose to pass as a white person because of maybe a light skin color or whatever the case may be. And it deals with that issue of what it means to be in community, what it means to abandon community, what it means to live in a racist world where you're able to fudge your race, and would you do that? So I think those are interesting questions, very interesting themes. I don't think the movie is interestingly made. That's my problem. Now, that may seem weird considering it's 4:3 aspect ratio and it's in black and white. Those are obvious artistic choices. But what's interesting about both those choices is they are limiting choices, right? They are choices that say, okay, we're taking color out of the equation and we're taking, the expanse out of the equation. And like so much of this movie, it just feels desaturated. It feels toned down. It feels, there's not a lot of energy here, not a lot of things that I'm grabbing onto that are compelling me. It's just this story. And is that story interesting? Actually, no, kind of no. It's not beyond the themes that I talked about that are interesting. The actual ins and outs of the story that's being presented is kind of not. And so for me, that ends up with just kind of a meh experience about something I was hoping would be more interesting and compelling because it's an exciting topic for my brain to think about. So it's not a recommend from me, but it's available if you've got a Netflix subscription and maybe you've got a couple hours, and so it's not like you have to spend extra money on it. So maybe you want to check it out. But it's called Passing, and it's on Netflix.
Is this the one Rebecca Hall directed?
Correct, her debut. I think her directorial debut.
Which that interested me, but there was something about this that wasn't like catching my attention for some reason, and maybe I'm seeing that what you saw. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. It's difficult, right? Because I do recognize the importance and beauty of the themes, while at the same time going, is it okay that I found it bland? Like it doesn't capture those themes in a way that is interesting to me.
The black and white conversation is something I've seen recently because there's a decent amount of films this year that have been
Belfast
shot in black and white.
is another one that's getting a lot of buzz. Yeah.
And I mean, I'm a huge classic film guy, so I love black and white. But I do wonder sometimes when I watch a current movie, like, did it really, like, does it, like, what is the reason?
What's the purpose? Yeah, what's the purpose?
Mank was a great recent example of a movie that it's fine that they shot that in black and white, but it didn't. Like, it doesn't really do anything for the movie. Does that make sense?
I understand Mank. I mean, Mank not only shot in black and white, but they actually used period audio equipment. Like, everything they did they tried to make that movie as realistically as possibly that it could have been actually shot when Citizen Kane was shot. Like, they used the cameras from that era. Like, it was like a production decision, so the black and white kind of went along with that.
Well, then ignore what I said.
But I know what you're talking about, that feeling. Yeah.
It is interesting because, like, I definitely don't want to harp on it because I love black and white photography and I love black and white cinema, but sometimes I'm just kind of like, I had
that feeling with, what was it, Nebraska? Is that the name of the movie?
Yeah, Nebraska is a good example.
I was just like, why? What are you serving here? And I think it's just a visual thing for some people. They think it looks beautiful and looks cool. And then some other directors do it for like Hitchcock for Psycho. That was because the gore and the trauma, he wanted to tone that down. Spielberg kind of the same. He made the same choice with Schindler's List. The trauma was too extreme in color, and so and he used color interesting in that movie. So I know there are reasons to do it, but I'm
absolutely.
I'm with you.
No, Schindler's List had to be in black and white. Yeah. I mean, there are some that I totally get, but sometimes I'm just kind of like, And I just noticed that conversation being thrown about because there's a handful, I think, this year that are in black and white.
Yep.
I will also talk about a movie. I highly recommend this movie. I saw it a little over a week ago, and it has not left my mind at all. And I mean, I loved it when I saw it. It wasn't one of those that had to grow on me. But it's Wes Anderson's new film, The French Dispatch. One thing about this film, though, I will say, if you're not a Wes Anderson fan, or if you haven't seen a Wes Anderson movie, I would not recommend this as your first one. And if you're not a Wes Anderson fan, I don't know that you're going to like this.
No. Well, I mean, I guess it depends on what you don't like about Wes Anderson, but there's no movie more Wes Anderson than The French Dispatch.
This is like, I've been thinking about it. Like, to me, I don't know if either of you have read Vonnegut, but Kurt Vonnegut's Breakfast of Champions is 100% my favorite Kurt Vonnegut novel. But I can't imagine somebody reading that as their first Vonnegut novel, because basically it's kind of like, I've heard it referred to like as his Prospero's books, where it's kind of like he's taken all of his characters from previous things and he's released them into the world. That's kind of what this feels like. Like, these are all like, it's an anthology of sorts, where you've got these people that are that work at this newspaper, right? It's the French Dispatch, and the owner has passed away, or is about to pass away. And I guess he has passed away at the beginning, right? And then you see these different stories throughout from people that are working there and stuff. So it's basically an anthology, but it's like all the Wes Anderson staples are there. Like, all these characters, even though they're not the same characters from other movies, you feel like you've seen them before. But I don't know. It just, as a Wes Anderson fan, I'm not saying he doesn't make bad movies. We actually talked about this a couple weeks ago. We talked about Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think he's made couple of terrible movies. But like, when he's on, it's some of the most delightful cinema that I've ever seen. And this falls for me in that category as someone. It just felt like almost like a reward for, like, you've enjoyed my films. Here's a nice little reward movie for you. I don't know how else to explain, but it's just, the cast is great. This is probably like Timothée Chalamet is so good in this movie.
Yeah.
And that, I don't know that I've ever really even liked him that much before, but he's so funny in this movie. Like it's just like the perfect like material, I guess, for him. Like his hair gives such a great performance in this movie. Like it's insane. But yeah, no, this is just a very joyful, fun time at the movies. If you want to be Wes Anderson, it's hard to be more Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Than by watching The French Dispatch. And I think it's doing okay. Like, I think for a smaller film, like, it's actually doing okay at the box office. So I'm glad people are checking it out. But I don't know. I'm just really curious. I haven't seen a lot of people just being overjoyed about it. So I don't know what the general consensus is, but I know I loved it. So
Ian, have you seen this movie? General thoughts on Wes Anderson stuff?
I'm so confused by Wes Anderson.
Sure.
I like him. I've after watching Fantastic Fox 14 times, I've now firmly landed in I like what Wes Anderson is doing. I don't like every time that he does it, but I like his style and I like what he does. I haven't seen this yet, and I'm probably, unless I get a chance to come and see it with you guys, I'm probably not going to get to see it until it releases at home. But yeah, I think, based on what you guys have said, I think I would like this film.
I loved it. Loved it. It may be my favorite Wes Anderson movie. But it's
up there.
It's still recency bias. You know, I know there's a little recency bias there. But you talk about, everybody's in this movie. I'm not kidding. Everybody is in this movie. Timothy Chalamet,
even if just for his scene.
Timothy Chalamet, Tilda Swinton, Bill Murray, Benicio del Toro, Adrian Brody, Frances McDormand, Owen Wilson, Jeffrey Wright, Saoirse Ronan, Elizabeth Moss, Jason Schwartzman, Willem Dafoe, Edward Norton, Christopher Waltz, Henry Winkler, Liev Schreiber, Bob Balaban, Angelica Houston, Fisher Stevens, Kate Winslet. Like it just goes on. I'm telling you,
it's you in it.
I'm in this movie.
You know what? Now wait, hold on. I missed Kate Winslet. I'm
reading
picture
through the cast list here. But yeah,
she plays
I can't believe.
It's very convincing.
I don't know. I can't believe I missed her. But some of them are like blink and you miss them. Like Fisher Stevens and Jason Schwartzman. They don't. I mean, I think they just work in the office or something. But and same with Elizabeth Moss. But yeah, no, it's. I forgot about. But Benicio del Toro also is quite. I think him and Chalamet kind of steal
Kate
it.
Winslet was cast, but she dropped out, so she is not in the movie. So that is a Google mistake. That is a Google mistake. Don't let that detract from the 432 other names I mentioned before that. But yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think the what did you say? The different stories.
Anthology.
The anthological nature of it is beautiful, but it all fits together. It's not like these stories are different. I think the prison artist story is one of the best stories I've seen in film in years. Like it's so good and funny and meaningful and hilarious. Like I'm in love with this movie, and this is such a good use of nudity too. Like yes.
And I don't know how to explain that. You just have to watch it. Like it's
artists often use nudity in a great way without tying it to lasciviousness or sexuality or those kind of things. And but no, I liked this film probably close to loved it when I came out, and now I'm firmly in loved it. Like this one is also growing on me, and I want to see it again. So
because I saw this the same night with Last Night in Soho. And I really, really liked Last Night in Soho as well, but that one hasn't stuck with me as much as The French Dispatch for sure. So
yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. It is so crazy how this movie really is this little print publication from a Kansas town about what's going on in France. Like that is what this movie is. It literally just goes through this publication and shows you the stories and. I'm in love with this movie, and I cannot wait to see it again. So Wes Anderson's brain must be a really fun place. Well, we haven't even mentioned how visually creative and stunning this movie is. Like, Wes Anderson is famous for composition, right? Like, like when you watch his movies, it's like they look like little miniatures a lot of times, and the way he shoots them and frames them and that kind of stuff. This movie is full of freeze frame moments where everybody is actually like playing frozen frame. And the way they are frozen in the frame is so perfect and beautiful. And it'll do this pan through this frozen diorama. He creates dioramas for the movie screen. And it's kind of mind-blowing. And I also understand that if you're not into that, this is going to feel dumb. Like, I totally get that. Like, because it's not like you're going to go to this and go, oh man, I was really sad when our protagonist had that tragic moment, but then they came back for, like, that's not what this is about. This is about, again, several little stories from a publication and how they make you feel. And I can't recommend it enough. I'm really excited about French Dispatch.
One of the best of the year so far.
I agree. It'll definitely be on my list. So we have French Dispatch, which is in theaters, Passing, which is on Netflix, and Spencer, which is also in theaters. That's going to wrap it up for Behind the Sins this week. Don't forget to make sure you're subscribed and go ahead and leave a comment or rating as well. If you've got anything you want to send us, you can mail it to us at P.O. Box 881, Republic, Missouri 65738. You can hang out with us on Twitter. I'm at Aaron Dicer. He is at Wits End.
At WHITTSINNED.
And he is at Slam Loomis 13. So for Jonathan Watkins, Ian Whittington, a Butt Onion, and myself, we will see you next week.
Happy Apple Cider Day.
Thanks for listening. Send any feedback to bts@cinemasins.com. And be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment. Find more ways to connect by visiting cinemasins.com/BTS.
Gonna sit here and sing at people while they work. Channel some Danae chaotic energy.
Yeah, you got some work to do on that, Ian. That is not nearly Danae level chaotic energy going.
I'm going to Destination Star Trek in London.
So what is that?
It's a huge Star Trek convention. And yeah, like a good chunk of the Voyager cast are going. George Takei is going to go. So there's just like loads of talks and there'll be stands. It's like Comic-Con, but for Star Trek.
Gotcha.
It's going to be fun.
So it's like it's different than a convention, what you're going to? Or is it what they're calling the conventions now?
Yeah, no, it is a convention if we have the same definition of convention. But yeah, it's Comic-Con for Star Trek.
Oh, okay, but it's just Star Trek.
Just Star Trek.
Are there like multiple guests there?
Yeah, there's loads. There's a whole suite of people going.
Well, that's a little different because when I used to go, like in the 90s, in the last, I guess, huge Star Trek boom before this one, it used to just be like, at least in Nashville, it used to just be they would come and it'd be like one person. So like,
oh no, this is huge. So
yeah,
this is...
I went to that one and like John Delancey was there, and then I went to two because Marina Sirtis was at the other one.
Yeah, she's at this one as well, which would be cool. So a lot of the Discovery actors are there.
She's back in England, right? Like
she's now living in England. Yeah, she was living in LA, I think.
Forget America, man. I'm going back.
Yeah, she like aggressively left America. Like it was a big F you. I'm gonna go home. Like it's no better over here. Deanna, your scenes will get cut just as much as they did.
I love Star Trek. I just, I haven't invested as much time in it as I could have. Like, I know if I were to do a full watch of The Next Generation, I would have a blast. But I just, for me, there's something so daunting about, going on that sort of journey into,
like no joke
so
though.
Much of it.
You, Aaron, you would dig Deep Space Nine.
I bet I would.
I bet I would. Especially like the later seasons, because that was a super, like, there was a lot of continuity there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did the first interconnected universe.
It is very difficult for me to go backwards, though. That is one of the really hard things, is for me to go and pick up missing TV pieces of my pop culture. Movie pieces are easier for me to pick up. Even though I'm investing the same amount of time, it feels like a new, different story, every night. So like I can go back and watch something from the 60s or 70s or whatever. And I feel like, I can invest that time. But if I go back to Sopranos or Next Generation or Deep Space Nine or whatever it is, I feel like, oh, this is my life for the next year, or whatever.
It will be, yeah.
You know, I typically have like an older show that I'm going through. Like right now I'm going through Alfred Hitchcock Presents because it's on Peacock. And what I'll typically do is watch 1 or 2 episodes a day. And if I miss a day, you know, who cares? It's fine. But like I'll watch them at lunch. That's a pretty good like when I'm eating lunch, like that's a good 30 minutes, you know, so I'll pick up stuff like that. I've been really interested because I saw I Love Lucy is on something I have access to. And with that movie coming out, I was like, you know, I've never really watched I Love Lucy. Like I know I've seen episodes.
Right.
And like I know kind of the popular stuff, but like I've never just sat down and watched the show. And I bet it's amazing.
It's just hard. It's hard for my brain when it's like, oh, you could spend a couple hours watching part of this massive thing that you may never get into, or you could watch Beverly Hills Cop 2, which you've never seen. You know what I mean? It's like, what?
Did you just compare TNG to Beverly Hills Cop 2? I am leaving.
I do kind of love Beverly Hills Cop 2. I totally get why people hate it, but it's just, it's like excess. I don't know. We'll talk about it.
I just don't know why you wouldn't watch 1. Like, if you want that enjoyment, just watch 1 again.
Of what? Star Trek?
No, Beverly Hills Cop.
Well, he's never seen Beverly Hills Cop.
I haven't seen it. Like, that's the thing.
No, that's fine. Like, you haven't. But if you're
you're saying if you were to go back, you would just watch 1. But 1 and 2 are so different. It just kind of depends on what you're in the mood for. Like, are you in the mood for, like, if you want some excessive 80s-ness, like, just like you can, when you watch that movie, that's the one thing you're going to notice is nobody said, no, Eddie. Like, they were just like,
you can't do this.
Brilliant. Just keep doing that.
Yeah, that is always a recipe for excess.
You kind of need a guide with TNG, though, because there's like 25 episodes a season, and you probably need 10 of them. Like, you need someone to guide you through, we can skip this episode.
Yeah,
but
Aaron's
this one.
Aaron is like me, though. Aaron has to watch everything.
I have to watch it all, and I have to watch it all in order. Like, and I'm sorry, like, I don't know how to make my brain okay with not doing that. It just, it like hurts.
So you'd have to start with the original series.
No.
I mean, okay, so yes and no.
The original series is outstanding.
No. I've watched a lot of the original series, and that would be interesting
Ian
to me.
Ian doesn't like the original series. That's interesting.
But
I really don't.
But
it's so problematic.
Oh, it's problematic, but I mean, there's still really good storytelling in there.
It's problematic, but it's also progressive, right? Like for the time.
On the Edge of Forever.
That's what's the interesting thing with the original series is it is both progressive, but also blind to, you know, some things that culture would wake up to.
That's the first interracial kiss on television, right? With Shatner and
even that's problematic because Shatner had to force himself into that because that was going to be Nimoy
but there are positives. There's always positives and negatives.
Totally agree. I'm not saying it's all bad.
There's a reason that, you know, a lot of Star Trek fans cite City on the Edge of Forever as the best episode of Star Trek.
Brilliant.
I don't know that it is, but it's ridiculous. Like, it's like Harlan Ellis, and you had like these amazing writers. It's like the same thing as Twilight Zone. Like, you had like these sci-fi writers like at the top of their game. Like, I mean, you would never, like, it'd be like if Stephen King wrote for like horror series now, which, you know,
it would be like when Quentin Tarantino wrote an episode of CSI. That's what that would. To go back to your original point, I don't have a problem watching movies or TV shows out of chronological order if they're not directly tied to each other. I know they're both Star Trek shows. They probably reference each other a little bit, but I doubt it's very much.
Not too bad.
So it wouldn't be hard for me to start with TNG if I was going to do that.
Starting with TNG would be fine. I think you would have a harder time starting with Deep Space Nine or Voyager because I do think those are directly related because that was a whole period. Yes. Yeah. Now, TNG does reference the original series. Characters from the original series are on TNG.
Well, and I've seen the movies. Like, I've seen Generations.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you know,
exactly. So like, if Sarek shows up or if Spock shows up, like, you know who that is.
But it's rare. Yeah.
But to act like TNG is not problematic, I mean, I can't imagine something.
No, I'm not saying it. All right, I may have backed myself into a corner here. I don't hate the original series. It's just not the series I would choose.
Hate it. I don't care.
It's not the series I would choose to introduce somebody to Star Trek to.
No, well, just like I wouldn't.
Just because
I would choose Enterprise.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even choose Deep Space Nine to introduce somebody because I think you almost have to have TNG in your system before you watch Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I have a tried and true. I've done this with 3 people, and it has worked all 3 times, which means it's perfect. So there's no like confirmation bias here at all. But I introduced them to Discovery first because it's the most modern one. So it kind of gets you into some of the lore, and the it's easier to watch.
You mean the one on Paramount Plus?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I watched Discovery.
Yeah, so that's the first one I introduce people to. Then we go to Enterprise, because it's not the best series, but it's not as dated as TNG, but it still gives you a bit deeper into the lore. Then TNG, Voyager, Deep Space Nine. So I kind of like ease people in backwards, but they get enough kind of knowledge to then put up with the older stuff.
Well, and I can appreciate people not wanting to watch like 60s television series. I mean, I just enjoy them, but I mean, I'm not, that's not something I would ever press on anybody.
Thank you for joining us for the latest episode of Captain's Pod, and we will begin.
You probably need to cut that out.
Wait, why would I need to cut a Captain's Pod reference out?
It hasn't been announced yet.
It hasn't?
No.
When's it supposed to drop though?
The first of the so the 20 episode 0 comes out on the 24th
of this month.
And episode 1 is the first. Yeah,
and we're purposefully not talking about it.
Oh, I suppose we can talk about it now.
Let's just drop it right here. Let's let people know there's a Star Trek podcast coming.
Yes, there's a Star Trek podcast coming. With
welcome to your taste of the first of the Star Trek podcast.
And you get Danae on a podcast again.
That's right.
Yay. That sounded really miserable. It's like, yay, you get Danae on a podcast again.
No, it was like, I think that would excite people, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so if you want a taste of Danae, she is returning for Captain's Pod, where we're going to talk about season 1 of Picard.
Just be warned, she will also leave that podcast.
No, she absolutely will. Yeah. This is a 9-episode run.
A temporary guest spot. Yes, yeah.
She may leave immediately because we're 3 episodes in and she
is already
is enjoying elements of it. I'm not going to say she's enjoying all of it.
So there you go. Danae and Ian running through the first season of Picard on Captain's Pod, coming soon to a podcast player near you. We're dropping big news today, people.
Woo! In the outtakes.
In the outtakes of Behind the Sins.
Oh, sorry, yeah, because it gets to say the word ass. Yeah, oh, Riker. I love
it. That is kind of one of those things when they curse, you're just kind of like, you're just doing that because you can. Like, totally, there's no reason for you to say that. I don't care.
There's an admiral that just F's right to Picard's face, like, aggressively. And I think Patrick Stewart, like, comes out of character and he's like, what did you just say to me? Like, he stops being Picard for a second. He's like, you can't do that.
It's interesting to me
for 2 seasons.
Yeah,
It's going to have a third.
Going to have a third. Yeah, they're doing it back to back.
It's the swearing in Picard in some of the new Star Trek stuff is interesting to me because in my mind canon, my head canon had always been that culture had just progressed beyond transgressive words, like that it was we kind of spoke to each other in a more civil discourse or whatever. And so in my
fuck you, Aaron.
Exactly. In my head canon, it was that those words had like gone out of practice. Like it just wasn't.
No, you're right.
That's the accepted thing in the universe. Yeah,
that is a complaint that old school Trek fans have. A lot of people feel, or not a lot. I don't know what a lot is. Like 10 people on Twitter that are crying, but there's definitely a faction out there of Trek fans that think that that's the problem, is that they've gone away from what the original, what the Federation meant and all this stuff. And it's like, whatever, man.
I don't care what century you're in. If you stub your toe, you are going to swear. Like, it doesn't matter if we don't do that anymore. Aaron, you liar! You absolutely do.
I think the thing I like most about Picard, though, is that it's
I'm not trying to play a role here. I'm not like
I know.
I just have never practiced those words, so they just don't they don't come to me.
That's just learned.
The word "ouch" comes to me.
Turkey poo.
Like if I stub my toe, I will either say "ouch" or I will go like that.
No, I believe it. If you never say them, why would they come to you?
Yeah.
Your parents
Son of a
didn't say them.
So if like it's just like saying if there was a word that was a swear word that you'd never heard of, well, you're not going to say it when you stub your toe because it's not something in your head.
Yeah, that's probably a valid point.
It's just what you live with and what you practice, right? Like so So yes, there is something nice about having exclamatory words. Just for me, it has always been my practice just to say what I'm actually thinking or feeling, like my toe hurts or that was painful. So
I love the idea of how civil that is. You just kick the edge of the corner and go, ouch, that rather hurts.
It doesn't sound quite like that, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it sounds American, but you don't put on an English accent whenever you like stub your toe.
I remember watching Logan the first time, and that's like your first R-rated X-Men movie, and it felt like every other word was an F-bomb.
Yeah, they were really trying to take advantage of it, yeah.
It just felt kind of like, not that I don't believe that Logan would talk like that. Absolutely, of all the characters, I think Logan would drop some F-bombs, but it wasn't even him. It was everybody. Yeah. Like I think even like Patrick Stewart was saying it. I mean, it was just,
he does.
It felt a little. Yeah. I'm not a prude or anything. I don't care what you say, obviously, but like it is weird when you're used to a property that never does that.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
when they do
it stands out.
It's a lot.
Well, it feels like
it feels forced.
It feels purposefully over the top in a way that like the guardrails are off. It's like X-Men has gone off to college. The parents aren't watching over anymore. And, you know, now they're going to binge drink and, do whatever.
Yeah, like Patrick Stewart's doing blow off like a stripper's butt or something. I mean, like that might have, I wish they had done that, actually. That would have been fun. But,
the Wolverine of Wall Street.
yeah, exactly.
Nice.
100%.
Very nice.
I am not kidding when I say I could listen to you guys talk about Star Trek forever. It's really fun for me. Like I love people. No. I'm not kidding. But we do need to get started. I did have one other point I wanted to make before we hit go about why
it's too late.
Why it's hard to go back and watch stuff. Sometimes I also feel like I don't have anything to add to the discourse. Like that discourse about those things is so deep and nuanced, and so many people have said so many things about those kind of things that a lot of times with what I do, I feel part of the purpose is being involved in the discourse, which is why I lean towards new stuff, right? Because then there's an immediate discourse that happens on it. And for me, that's part of the fun part, is being involved in the discourse. If I go back and I watch TNG, I can talk to you about it, Ian, and that's fun or whatever, but I'm not saying anything you probably haven't heard before. You know what I mean? But
I don't care. I just love talking about it. Like the same thing could be said about...
I don't want stuff to be forgotten, though. That's the only thing with me. That's kind of why I try to latch on to older stuff. And not that TNG's forgotten, but like, I don't know. It's just interesting to me. I mean, with social media, a lot of stuff comes back, which is really cool, because I remember telling people how much I love Columbo, and people like 20 years ago, people were like, what is that? And this is like when they were still making like TV movies and stuff. But now, like, you have like Columbo podcast, and you have like, people on Twitter that are doing Columbo rewatch. Yeah. I mean, so it's like, I think everything kind of gets to live nowadays.
Yeah, totally. And like me talking to Jonathan about Star Trek is no different to like you starting for the first time. Like, there's nothing new that me and Jonathan are talking about. It's just fun talking about it with somebody that I haven't talked to about it with. I am a writer.
I think for our purposes, what we're starting to realize, and we want to do our best balance of fun new stuff, because it'll be fun and new to do for our hardcore fans, and whether it be Visions or Ted Lasso or Discovery, that don't do well with numbers. But we also, of course, we have to look at the numbers. Of course, we have to go, what does our, what breaks through like the cultural awareness in a way that works. And I think what we're learning is the YouTube audience is a very specific audience. Like the YouTube, what's going to really impact on YouTube is fairly niche, right? Like there's, Rick and Morty, things that are a little irreverent. The YouTube fans seem to love that irreverent stuff. Like Rick and Morty, Family Guys do well. Simpsons do well. All those are animated, irreverent shows.
And it matches us being irreverent as well. It fits in.
Exactly. That's exactly right. We're learning like there are these there's a nice Venn diagram of, YouTube fan base for that kind of stuff. And then as well as the big Marvel stuff. And like that always does well. Star Wars stuff doesn't always do well, which is interesting. It's only like the big, canonical Mandalorian stuff that has worked in Star Wars, but like everything Marvel has done well. We haven't done any of all of the Marvel shows have done well on the channel. So learning that stuff is interesting, because I didn't think Ted Lasso would be like a major hit for us, but I didn't think it would get that low of views. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, it's in the public consciousness. It's just maybe not as many people are watching it, and specifically maybe not as many people who love to search YouTube for funny videos are watching it, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. I always wonder, like, what's a hit show on some of these streaming services, like what that constitutes. Like, Apple can say more people watch Ted Lasso than any of our other shows, but what does that mean?
Right.
Like, does that, you know, like, is that 2 million? Is that 10 million? Is it 30? You know, I mean.
But it might also just be the thing that people aren't hungry to pick apart and find everything wrong with, because it's pretty heartwarming and you feel a bit dirty when you've seen it. It's like, oh, this is such a good show.
We just recently had the Yellowstone conversation, right? Yellowstone is huge. There are a ton of people watching that show. There's data to back this up, but I kind of feel like that would probably tank if we did the pilot of Yellowstone. I just don't know that many people would find it on YouTube on a funny, crass YouTube channel. Like, it's just, it feels like a different audience. So
crass indeed, sir. We are writing Shakespeare.
I watched the pilot like a year ago or so, and I enjoyed it. And then just for whatever reason, I just didn't keep watching it. My wife did, though, and she's obsessed. Like, she watched it live with commercials.
People are obsessed with this show. People love Yellowstone. Yeah.
I think people in our office are really into it.
Yes, in our office. Yes,
whatever you want to call it.
We were just having that conversation at the water cooler.
Our company.
Yeah. So
yeah.